Today is Friday, December the 15th, 2023, and welcome to episode 74 of Rural Reliance with the Canny Couple. I'm Julia.
And I'm Aaron.
We're a small homestead family in rural Southwest Virginia that work every single day on being more self-reliant, less dependent on outside sources, merging frugality and homesteading.
Yeah, and, we talk about this one a lot, or around the topic, just because we've experienced so many times without power.
We have. And for us, it's really important. This is probably one of the top things that we have prepared for in the past. Now, life has changed a lot for many people in the past 3 years. So these preps aren't just limited to power outages. It's our primary focus here. But this is really just in general. These are things you need to have on hand, preps, especially in the winter time. Now you're going to see a video come out from us. Has some really quick preps that you need to have for winter. Be sure to check that out. But today we actually want to really focus on power outages and winter.
Yeah.
So we've talked about power outages. We live rural Southwest Virginia. Our power company is notoriously expensive and notoriously bad at managing the lines.
And that's probably putting it lightly.
Yes. We actually just had an increase.
Well, it goes, I think, at the end of January.
It passed.
Oh, it passed, right.
It passed.
Another $16 for 1,000 kilowatt hours.
Why did they pass it?
Because they said they needed it to maintain the power lines.
Yes. So they're saying the power lines are bad, the trees, they need to start cutting down the trees, managing all this, which we all knew that was an issue. We all knew that was a problem.
Yep.
We know because we experience it. One tree falls, the wind takes a slight breeze, and the power goes out. It has actually not been terrible in the past few winters. We've had a few cases where we've lost power, but it's been worse in the summers.
It has. It's been days upon days in the summer.
I mean, it's been so bad. But we still want to make sure, like, if we're prepped, summer's important. Not saying summer is very important, but summer is a much more manageable time for us versus the winter time.
Because wintertime, we might not be getting out.
Might not be able to get out.
Not right. It's easier to cool yourself down than heat yourself up.
It's dangerous in the winter.
Yep.
It's dangerous for us in our area, and a lot of people will be like, well, we can get out no matter what kind of weather. You're not getting off this mountain in bad weather.
You'll need chains, and it's going to take you a long time. And
it's dangerous.
Yep.
It's very dangerous. It's really not worth it. You see a lot of people around here on our interstates. If a sudden snowstorm hits, there will be lines of vehicles on the sides of the road because even our interstates are poorly maintained, and it's really not safe to drive when it's bad weather out. So that is why we focus so much on this, because in our area, this really is a big thing. If we got snows like they have in
out west especially,
we would never be able to, we wouldn't be able to function.
No.
It's completely different in the mountains and around here versus these other areas where snow is kind of normal. We don't really get a lot.
And, well, in our area, it's contracted out as well. So even the State Department doesn't even usually do our roads. They contract it out to groups who do it when they get to it,
It's really rough. And the roads are in poor condition, at least for us in our area. It's really, really bad. So we want to talk about it. And this is also one of the reasons we have really focused on reducing our dependency on outside power. And it comes in the form of getting a wood stove to heat the house in the wintertime. Getting the solar set up so that we can run the refrigerators, the freezers, the basic needs that we have. All of these things have came into fruition because
we've had to deal with power outage. We've lost freezers, food before, and etc.
Yes. So it's why we're so passionate about this and why we feel like it's a top prep for everyone. They really need to be thinking about this. So top one, and we're just going to go through these. Some of them we'll expand on, some of them not so much because we have expanded on them. First one's going to be food and water for all your humans
And animals.
Your animals. Do not forget your animals. Make sure you have thawed, ready to go water for whatever length of time you think you might be stuck at home. If your time frame is 2 to 3 days, depending on where you live, have 2 to 3 days of water on hand, easy to grab, in a place where you can at least maintain it and get to it for your animals. For us, we're probably going to go more on the week to 2 weeks.
Just because that's what we've experienced in the past.
If it gets bad enough, it can be 2 weeks before we have power back on, and we are relying on that for our water.
Yeah.
Power stations. This is something Aaron's really worked on building up in our house.
It has, and I'm not talking about even like the big ones like the EcoFlow like we've got. I'm talking about just even small ones. Having small ones on hand that can run lights, that can charge phones, laptops, whatever, just those type of ones. And we're always, we'd always catch those on some sort of sale.
I mean, especially Black Friday.
Right.
I know under the median, they always talk about some that have good deals. Now, we've looked at some of those, and we've weighed what they can do, their pros and cons of those, and we've not really needed any of that size that they kind of promote. And when we were going with the bigger system, we went with the EcoFlow for the amount of battery storage.
And ease of use for her.
And ease of use for me.
We've got a couple of other ones in that brand now, so trying to keep more of the same pieces and parts accessible to switch out between devices is very helpful. But like I will say, one of them though we bought, it was some no-name one. It will not keep a charge.
It will not. It's one of our bigger small ones, and it will
sometimes it does for a little bit, but it's notorious about
draining when you're not using it.
Yes. So it's like it's running somehow when you don't have it on.
But we have lots of littler ones that are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Like they do so well, and they're no name, no brand, no nothing. But these things, we have ran routers. We ran the router off of
We ran the router through the whole house remodel pretty much, especially in that room. And with dust flying and everything in the room just because we had to have internet while the contractors were here.
Every 12 hours, we would have to switch one out. And it wasn't that much of a hassle, but it did work out really well for us.
Yeah.
It did. And those little power stations are amazing. So don't just think of it like in needs of that. If you have something that you need to sleep, like you have a sleep apnea machine, you might need something that's a little bigger. It's going to get you through the night. Anything like that you might need for medical purposes. If you have an oxygen machine that needs to be recharged, I know they have the smaller ones now that the battery packs with them. So I don't understand how all that works, but you might have an option of having something so you can have that charge, because that is a necessity for you, and that's any time of the year. Lanterns, kerosene heaters. What else did I forget? So that's
just if you don't like to run LED lights, or don't have something solar, don't want to run a generator for lights. You've always got your old timing methods of kerosene heaters, lamps, candles. Anything like that you can get heat off of in the house,
or a light.
Yeah.
And it's also an extra backup source of light. You can get oil that has no smell or no odor, the clean scent, the clean oil.
And a lot of people use those in the lanterns and like perfection, like kerosene heaters anymore these days.
And that's actually the way we went. I can't do a kerosene heater because the smell, it really bothers my...
Just saying those words, I feel like growing up I could smell the kerosene.
You could smell that big old one, not the really old ones, the square ones, but we're talking about the big round ones. That's the thing up here. You have those really big round ones, and we do have one if we needed it. Yeah. It's very, very old. But for us, the perfection just made the most amount of sense, and we are always looking to up our game and get a few more of those to have on hand for light as well as for heat.
Yeah.
The next one's going to be candles. Now, I will tell you, this is an area I'm very deficient in. because I don't like candles.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish we had some more of, just beeswax candles, those types, but you're going to pay more for those. You can find other candles on sale at yard sales, that
But
you
we
can pick
haven't.
up. Right, we have.
We haven't, but a lot of people can.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been looking. Like I have a list of things that I'm looking for when we go to yard sale. So Aaron, his brain's usually on. This is what we're going for
What we need
resale.
to make money off of, yeah.
I am looking at yard sales for what do I need for preps in the house. Where is my glass dishes with container lids? Where are even pretty vintages, things like that. And also candles, things of that nature that I could put on have on hand for an emergency situation. I would much rather pay super cheap price for those. And if I have found them, they've been super expensive for used candle, and I'm not paying a lot of money. I want to pay pennies on the dollar for a used candle. Next thing's going to be sleeping bags, and I feel like a lot of people really don't think this through.
Yeah, and I will say, like, growing up, I always had sleeping bags on hand, but they weren't no cold weather sleeping bags.
No.
They were for me to get down and watch TV or cartoons in, type
Well,
of
that's what
thing
your dad
growing
does.
up. I know. We always had sleeping bags
On the couch.
on the couch. Just saying, that's one way to keep warm while watching TV. But you've got to think, what do you need from a cold weather perspective? What degree can your area get down to? How far down do you need, to make sure it's rated for that temperature?
We actually went with the same brand for both of us down to 0 degree. And we got the same brand and the same size. And the reason we did this, and we got the extra big ones, we did this because there's 3 of us. And we could put these together, have one on top, one on the bottom.
Yep.
And plus you're going to have the body heat of each other versus just the single sleeping bag with one person in it.
Right.
So we did this very methodically. We were really trying to make sure if it does get that cold, we can keep all 3 of us warm. So make sure you check your rating. Do you need a negative degree? Would a 30 degree? If you don't live in an area that gets super cold, like you just need to kind of figure out what works best for your area.
Now, the colder they get, the more expensive it gets.
They do. We went with Coleman.
It was Coleman.
It was Coleman. And we got the extra large. I needed one really long for Aaron. And we wanted one that was wide enough that if we did have Isabel in there with us, that it would be comfortable for everybody. Hand warmers.
And this is just, for comfort, or if nothing else, to make you think you're feeling warmer, whether it's the basic, hand warmers that
the hot hands.
Hot hands, or any more these days, they've also got ones where you can recharge and, you feel the heat from it like you're holding on to it. We have got each other those as well.
We got them for Christmas for each other.
We did without even saying it. We both got each other a set.
And they're actually really nice. So if your hands are super cold, just getting a hold of those. Especially, so think of this as more of like, if Aaron works outside and he is shoveling snow, he's going to come in, he's going to be really cold. So this is a really good thing for me to have because they don't get so hot you can't hold them. But it's a really good thing for me to have on hand so he can start to heat up his hands so they're not as bitterly cold. And they're rechargeable with a basic like battery charger. They don't take anything at all. Next one's going to be your firewood, your oil, your kerosene, your propane, anything like that.
Yeah, anything like that. Whatever you use to heat your house on a day-to-day basis in the winter, or even it could be in emergency situations. You got to make sure that you're stocked up for all of those things when it comes time. And I know a lot of people are having to let their heating oil and stuff, run down lower than they want to just because of the price of it all anymore. But make sure you do have enough, if you do lose power.
We're getting into the time of the year, like for us, that it's about to start getting super cold. We've been a little bit warmer, but we're getting into that time frame where it's about to get really cold consistently. If you have a Mr. Buddy, that's the brand, right? The Mr.
Yep.
Buddy heaters. Like, make sure you have several of those canisters to keep those warm, depending on what size you're using. That's always helpful. We looked at those. We went back and forth when we were looking at what we wanted. Then I found the perfection. I'm like, I love this. This is what I want. I think that's what changed our mind on the Mr. Buddy. Once we saw the perfection and how easy it was to use. It just changed everything for us. But the Mr. Buddy is a good option. You can get the small ones, I think, pretty reasonable.
And I have been seeing a lot of people recently talk about the big ones being on sale at a lot of places. I think they said Rural King had them on sale, and I can't remember what was the other place I saw in some groups the other day. But right now, maybe I don't know if it's because Christmas time or what, but there have been some sales running on them.
The only thing we hated about those was you have to have the cost of the little canisters. That's an extra added cost. It's not like going to fill up for kerosene and having the kerosene jugs or getting the clean heat. Like, all of it has an additional cost to it. So just something to be aware of. This next one, it's not a necessity, but it's nice to have. That is instant coffee or hot cocoa or like an instant mocha packet, things of that nature.
Something to make you feel warmer.
And it's a nice treat. When we were without power, I put a pot in the fireplace, heated up some water. It was really nice. I even had your dad bring us hot water. You remember I had his dad run hot water through his coffee pot and stick it in a thermos so I could make us some hot chocolate. And it worked because he was able to get to us. We couldn't get out, but he could get to us.
Because we had our vehicle stuck
at the top of the driveway.
Yeah.
And then it's ice all the way down. So that was really nice. Always really nice. Just to have that nice little treat, something to warm you up. It makes you feel a little good to have that normalcy.
And going off of that, something to heat them up with, whether it is a pot that you've got for your wood stove, an electric kettle, anything that you can use to heat up your water and your food is something that you need to have on hand.
We actually got a coffee pot that can go into a fireplace. We got this when Isabel was born. It was one of our very first preps for her. We would have been okay without it, but we needed a way for her to make sure we could heat up bottles.
Yep.
That was we could put it in the fireplace. I searched to find one. So we have one of those. We also have a small little grill that we can pop up anywhere. It's teeny tiny. We could do it on our carport to have a small fire and heat up some food or anything like that. We have the wood fireplace. If you do have a fireplace, we actually looked at getting one of those small tripods to go into them to put like a pot on it.
And I don't know if it might do something. Could we heat up water in the sun oven? You can,
because you can purify water in it.
Okay.
So you have the sun oven if you have one of those. It's also an option. Because the winter time is, especially if you like snow, because that's typically going to be when you have a power outage in the winter. It's going to be when you have snow. That snow is going to make it hotter because it's going to reflect the sun, so everything's going to, it should be able to get it warm. It's just going to take a really long time if it's really cold. But it might take a while.
Hey, it's an option.
It's not going to be boiling. But it would be warm enough that you can get a little bit warm. Make sure if you don't have a heated option, this might be a really good time for you to make some investments in yourself. They do have clothing now that you can get. It can be a bit pricey, that has heating built in.
And first off, it used to be just the major companies come out with them, but now there's a lot of other smaller companies coming out with them. The only thing I've seen, though, with some of the smaller ones is some people say that, the heat burns through the clothing and they've had recalls on them. But, check around, make sure you read reviews before you do decide on any certain brand.
We've looked at these for when we go camping. Because we found like that would be a really good option for us personally. And I do know Larry under the median, again, He loves his vest.
Oh, he does. He's always
he's
talking about
always
it.
wearing it. And I even think Hope has some socks. She was talking about her heated socks to keep her feet warm at night. So they do have lots of options out there. Really look at those. And on that, flannel sheets. Not fleece. Do not
Flannel.
get the fleece. Flannel sheets. Ollie's has them if you have an Ollie's. Bet you could probably find them at a Big Lots on a discount. If you can't, Kohl's has them, but you're going to pay up for them.
Mm-hmm.
They will burn you out of the bed.
Like freezing, going to bed at night, waking up in the middle of the night, like, oh my gosh, I'm suffocating.
They are so warm. They have been game changer for us. We've never been this warm without tons of blankets on, and we're having hardly any blanket.
And we were used to using more cotton t-shirt.
Well, the t-shirts,
sheets.
yeah, the really good ones are only for summertime because they're so thin.
That's what I was saying. That's what we were used to using, and going from that to flannel's a big difference too.
It is. It is. It's definitely something that'll help make you feel good. Flashlights.
You can't have enough.
You can't.
And you got to make sure you've got batteries either for them or recharged or however you can do it. I'm all for the rechargeable ones anymore, just because we have so many solar generators that we can easily plug those into, and have more light from them. I will say, make sure you have a couple of extra always too, because you never know when a flashlight's going to die, and you don't want to be without a flashlight, because that's like the most important thing. I know you've got them on your phone, but gosh, when you have one of those headlamp ones,
it's game changer
that you don't have to hold on to, something like that. Those are amazing.
Also, make sure you have lighting strategically placed throughout your house. If you have a really dark space, have a light on the wall. They make really nice rechargeable motion lights now that it's like a stick. You can pull it off and you can carry it with you. These are things I have actually been looking at for our house to have in each of the bedrooms, in the hallway, and in the bathrooms, and also in our kitchen and living room, and in our basement, because it's just such a good idea, because no matter where you are, I don't have to pull like one of those little hit ones. I don't have to pull it off the wall. I can just undo this, carry it around, and then put it back on its base when I'm ready, and it can be motion activated, so it seems like it's a really good option. Rechargeable or extra batteries on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, make sure you always have a good stockpile of batteries or rechargeable batteries. We're trying to build up our rechargeable battery stuff at all times, just because
we don't have enough.
We do not. And I know they're more costly, but if you think about it from over time perspective, if you buy like 3 or 4 AA packs, you're probably going to equal the cost of a good set of those anymore. And I did notice the other day that it looks like, I think it was Panasonic I was looking at, had came out with a new set that everybody has sort of been talking about. So those are way more expensive to not just, like a set of AA's for like $20, like, $60 for the charger and like 4 AA's.
That's crazy. I would also still have your regular, just to have a couple packs of your regular always, just because there are things I will not use our rechargeable batteries on. Aaron has tried to talk me into this for our electric toothbrushes, and I refuse.
Yeah, just on those, just because, if toothpaste gets down in it, water gets down in it, anything like that. To begin with, we had not been putting rechargeable ones in like the baby's toys either.
No.
Just because
somebody's destructive, and you never know when water might get poured down the back of an animal or something, Trying to feed the babies. Extra blankets.
Can't never have enough.
We actually probably have more than enough.
We probably have 5 times enough.
Probably do. We did not realize we had a blanket problem. Until I started washing all the blankets.
Until we started unboxing all of them.
I knew we had a lot, but man, I did not realize we had, like, we kept pulling out blankets, like, okay,
You know,
Okay.
we're on the edge of, hoarders of blankets.
Like I have bags of them under the bed because we don't need them out, but we have them in case we do need them. So we do have a good set of blankets. You should have a couple of blankets at least. I would do different weights. You want some lighter, want some heavier, want some wool is always good to have on hand.
Weighted blankets are a good one as well to keep you even
They
warmer.
are. They're really good to get your bed. It's not like having a heated blanket in the bed. It's not quite that cozy, but it's not nearly as cold.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could lay on top of it beforehand, it does give you a little bit more of that heated feeling.
Yeah.
So you want to set up and have ways to contain heat. This is so important. I feel like people underestimate this so much. We did.
Yeah, and you can't just assume that your whole house is going to stay warm if you're without power. You're going to have to confine your heat or determine what's the most important areas or something like that, unless you're totally off grid and used to it every day. Think about what's the most strategically placed room that you can easily contain everything.
But also go beyond that. Seal your doors. Make sure you don't have any areas. So what we actually just did is I noticed we had some gaps around our door. Aaron was feeling a breeze come through. I got a silicone. It's like a little silicone strip. We put them around the doors, closed the doors, and it's kind of created like a little barrier.
Yep.
Between the door and the crack, and we can tell a distinct difference. Now we're still feeling cold air. Our doors are steel.
Right.
They're old, so they feel cold. So we're still going to hang something over the doors. So not only did we close off the draft, we're putting something over the door. Put in child protective things in your outlets on outside walls. You would not believe the amount of air that comes through these things. Make the investment of $12. $12 for the ones where you can pull it down and pull it out. Don't get the cheapy ones, even if you don't have any kids.
Right.
It helps. Instead of you having to take the outlet cover off, putting styrofoam in there, any of that, spend $12. Just stick them in there. It will help. Make sure you have curtains or blinds. Put blankets over your curtains. I do a double curtain system in almost every room. I have 2 sets of heavy duty curtains, one light, one dark. We also have hooks over the few windows that we don't have curtains on.
So we can hang blankets over.
So we can hang a blanket over. That really helps. I'm actually about to put hooks over the 2 doors to hang blankets over them as well, so we can take more of that heat. If you don't want to do a blanket and you have a draft, you can also use painter's tape. That works. It's just blue and you can see it.
Yeah.
But it will contain your heat.
Well, but if you got to go in and out the door, that's a different story.
If you got to go in and out, it sucks. But, and especially like if you have a glass door. If you have glass doors, make sure you're covering those up. Make sure you have like full blankets, curtain sets over those. You can't, because glass is going to, while it reflects sunlight in, you're going to feel much more cold, especially if it's not newer, like triple pane glass.
Right.
Seal your holes. Spray foam at Rural King is super cheap. So if you have holes around your home, you should be checking that now. Go fill them.
Yep.
So you can protect yourself and your home. So doing these little things, it's a lot of work. It's so worth it. And you could take those extra blankets, if you're hoarding blankets like us, put them over doors, and it just helps so much. Anything else on that one?
No. You covered that one.
Make sure you're a week ahead on medications, at least, or however many days.
And this is just, this don't have to be for winter either. This
should
any
be
time of the year, just because you never know what's going to happen.
If you can. Now, I know there's a lot of insurance out there. It's really hard. And they watch it like
hawks.
Like something that has no need for anybody else. My God, you can't feel that thing until the day before.
Yep.
I get it. We do. We understand. There's some issues. But do what you can to try to get ahead of your medicine needs. So that way, if something does happen, you're okay for at least a couple of days. Be prepared to be stuck inside for a week minimum.
Yep. You know, whatever you need, from a living perspective, make sure you have enough of whatever you need during that times, even, stuff to entertain yourself for a week.
Was just talking to some people who I care about very dearly. They're like, I don't have enough food for tonight, let alone enough food for a few days. And I'm like, oh my word. Oh, my chest just dropped. It's like, no, our food's already ready for tonight. Like, I just have to pull it out and heat it up. Like, that's where I am. So there could be extremes on both sides. Try to find your middle ground where you want to focus and get to your comfort level. Make sure you're prepared because you can be stuck. We all saw it a couple of years ago where we were told to stay home.
Yep.
Didn't matter if you had groceries or not. Stay home. It's kind of what we were told, wasn't it?
Yep.
And this is really important in rural areas, especially if you have power outages, because in rural areas like where we live, your power outages usually mean road closures. Roads could fall in. We've seen many times where whole roads have fallen off in bad weather because sinkholes or the roads just broken apart. You remember when you were going to work and like half the road fell off?
Yes, so they had the road closures that way. I remember when growing up in the blizzard of 93, we got to talk about blizzard of 93. When me and my dad got out that time after it'd been like probably a week and a half at that point, to go get more kerosene, there was 140 some trees across the road on the way out to town. Yeah.
Yep. Don't know how much more you could say to that. And that just, if you live in an area like that could be a problem. You can have power lines in the road. You're not going to be able to have a tractor come through and get those. You have to wait for somebody who can actually make sure the lines are alive. That happens pretty often here. We see that on Facebook all the time of our neighbors seeing power lines and trees.
Well, anymore in the towns around here, even people running into the
it's
poles.
Pretty common. But in the town, you're more likely to get the power company out there. Out here,
we'll be out there next week.
Maybe. Depends on what it looks like. These people have been working hard. They need to sleep. Not saying they don't need sleep, but and the main thing here is you want to make sure your basic needs are covered.
Yeah.
Because you can be stuck. You can be told to stay home. So while we really focus heavily on power outages because it's very important to us and one of our big reasons for becoming more self-sufficient, especially as we've gotten older and, we've gotten more into homesteading. I mean, this wasn't really one of our big goals when we started homesteading.
No, but just from a preparedness standpoint of making it comfortable through power outages.
Because we've been very uncomfortable. We've not been hungry. But we were cold.
Cold and... So where our fireplace was before is in the basement with no windows.
Yeah.
So you're
depressed.
You're depressed because there's no sunlight coming in that section. You're basically living off candlelight
and fire. Yeah, basically.
For days on end.
Yeah, you don't know what time it is or anything.
Am I asleep in the day or am I asleep in the night?
And we had heat. It just wasn't warm enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't warm enough. Not for what we were used to at that point. I bet right now we'd probably be okay. We've been doing pretty good with current temperature. So
it doesn't sound bad though at the moment. I could use some naps.
I know that would be lovely. But just make sure you're keeping an eye on the things that you need. And this list is by no means exhaustive. This is just a few of the things that we thought of on the fly that we always try to have on hand. We're not fully prepared in all these areas, but we're prepared in a lot of them and in most of them. The ones we find the most vital, the most important. And our goal is to always get more prepared in all these areas and fields, except for the blankets. That's what we don't need to get more prepared in. Although I can't tell you that if I did see a really, really soft blanket, I might actually end up getting it, because that tends to be what happens. Like, oh, this feels wonderful, and I get it, and I really don't need to. So what are your final thoughts? What do you think is...
I always think about ways of power outages that you're prepared enough for your food, your water, and to preserve your food that you have, like in your fridges and freezers during that period. I know you can set some out in the snow, stuff like that, if it's cold enough. But let's say it's not cold enough. You don't have snow. You just got power outage. In the winter when it's a real rainy, cold day, you got to think of ways, that you can keep your food, safe.
That's true. That's very true. It's one of the reasons we went with the generator and the solar options just for the freezers. Now, our downstairs basement freezer, we will be lining that with some insulation on the sides and the top.
Do that. Talk about how much less electricity it even uses.
Yeah, so that's a plan with that one, because it's still a really good freezer. It's not one we are at the point where we need to replace it, even though it's older. It doesn't pull too much extra energy.
It's Montgomery Ward. So, how many years has it been since Montgomery Ward has been out of business? Somebody leave that down below in the comments, please.
It was free.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying, you're like, it's not too old.
It's not too old. It still works. It's good. It works. It's a good size.
Okay.
It was free.
Okay. So,
it was my moving out gift.
Montgomery Wards was definitely out of business before I got out of high school. Okay? And that's been 20 years.
It does the job. It does the job. So, leave in the comments below if your freezer is as old as Aaron. It does the job.
Who else has got a Philco Ford one too?
That one's probably older than Aaron.
It is older than me.
Oh.
Okay. Well, if you've got any comments, questions, anything you want to, ask or us to cover in a future episode, send it to thecannycouple@yahoo.com. Make sure to go over and check out our link tree, which has all of our other content. And, check out some of our upcoming videos, whether it is some of our Christmas candy, our Christmas finger foods, as I can think of it again. And then we'll have some talks about, water storage and stuff like that coming out as well.
And being getting prepped for winter.
Yep.
As always, thank you for joining us on Rural Reliance with the Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.